Okay, so now we have a texture baked with our environment texture. Um, so what I'm going to do now is just quickly go into a rendered view. Um, there we go. Let's go into rendered view, and you can see our environment texture kind of in the background. Um, but it's not where it should be, kind of thing. It's you know, if you remember, this is like a studio environment, and we kind of half in the dark, half in the light. But we can change this if we come across to texture tab, and we come down here to the mapping and the coordinates. We can move our texture around so we kind of get it where we want it to be. Let's try minus 0.3. Probably want to go a bit more. That's looking a bit better. It's in the middle of the backdrop. Same works for Y. You can kind of move it up and down. Z or Z doesn't have much influence, if any. So let's set that back to 0. And the size of the texture, now you can see if we had something slightly wider than Suzanne is, but this backdrop isn't quite covering it, we can that's not working as I expected. It's moving it around. One sec. Okay. It's working on the Y here. Nothing on the Z. Okay. So I've set that 0.5. Looks like I've got to set this back to 1. That's better. But it's not where I want it to be. So I'm kind of learning this as you are as well. Let's set this to offset of 2. Offset 0.5. Offset of 1. Offset of 0. Move these back the other way. It's slow to react. We're in a rendered view. 0.5. Looks like I should be in offset of about -1. There we go. Right, so we've extended the size of the texture by making it 0.5. We've basically doubled it, and we've had to remove or decrease the offset. I suppose increasing would do the same thing to cover it. So we're kind of manipulating our texture to fit what we want. Let me just reset this to 0, and let's reset this size to 1. Okay, so we can move our texture around. Now, as we're baking this texture, if we come back to our World tab and under the Environment Lighting, we can increase the energy of the texture to increase the strength of the lights, same as if we had lamps. So if I was to increase that to, say, 2, and I was to bake this again, this texture would all be blown out. So let's make sure Suzanne selected and bake just to test that, and you can see the white's just completely blown out. So let's come back to the world and let's set this energy back to 1. Okay, what I want to do now is I'm going to change my texture out. I'm going to use a color texture. Okay, so I'm going to open a new texture here. Yes, because I reopened my file and didn't. Okay, and let's go to desktop, and I've got a texture here which is the sunset Hdri. Okay, and you can see I've got this very vivid kind of orange sunset. Right, So let's go back to render tab, and let's bake this full render again and see what happens with this texture. And you can see it's only coming out in black and white again. The reason for this is we go back to the world tab, and under environment lighting we've got this drop down that says white. The options here are sky color and sky texture and white. Now sky color will take on these colors here, which we can set. Okay, what we want is to use the colors from the sky texture. So go to sky texture. You can see straight away it's taking on this orange. Let's bake this out. And you see our new texture is taking on this environment texture again, all the oranges in here. Okay, let's just let this bake. So to get color in our texture from the environment, we need to make sure that we have the sky texture enabled rather than the white. Okay, the last thing I want to show you, let me just go back into a solid view. Okay, is we have a kind of texture set up and we're baking this lovely kind of orange on it. But what happens if we want to use normal lights as well? So I'm going to add a lamp here, and I think for this we'll use a spot lamp, probably because it's the easiest to see. Okay, so let me rotate this spot lamp and move it. Let me decrease the size so we've got a nice tight kind of view on it. And let's go to 1 here. Let's move this more into the center. Okay. Right, so we can select what I wanted to do here, sorry, is I wanted to change the color of this lamp, just to make this show. So let's make this something that's going to clash to make it easy to see, green. Okay, so we'll select Suzanne, and we'll go back and we'll bake a full render again. So you can see it's picking up the green light on top of the environment texture, so we can use local lighting as well as the environment texture. Okay, let me just let that bake out. Nearly done. Let's go back to my camera view, and let's go to our rendered view, and you can kind of see the spotlight there taking its effect on. Okay, let's go back to solid view. Let's delete our lamp, and as you can still see, we still have just the camera and Suzanne in the scene. And with Suzanne selected, when we bake, let's go back to picking up the environment texture again. And that is the basics of using environment textures.